What is up, Down D family, and welcome back. If you thought last week's episode was tense, then season 3, episode 7, titled Radio, it just pulled the emergency brake on us and it threw us damn near to the deep end of survival. Before we break down a single frame, consider this your official spoiler warning. If you haven't seen the episode yet, hit pause, come back later, put your suit on, go handle your business, because we're going to dive deep into the lore today. The sheer desperation radiating off Juliette in this episode is palpable. Sending Lukas and Kennedy out into the pitch black, freezing wasteland isn't just some high stakes gamble. It is a near suicidal Hail Mary. Juliette is sitting back and playing this multi-dimensional game of chess against a cold, calculated system that seems to predict her every move before she even conceives it. But if you think you know who is pulling the strings after that cliffhanger ending tonight, you are wrong. Tonight, we are unpacking a devastating, impossible choice that could cost the life of thousands. And then we have a betrayal that, dare I say, crosses the point of no return. And then a terrifying missing link from the before times that completely changes the origins of the silos. So let's skip right to it and get into the structural shifts that really push this episode and the rest of the season going forward. Episode 7 runs on 2 parallel tracks, in my opinion. You have a desperate sabotage mission in the present and a chilling commercialization of the apocalypse in 2049 or around that time. In the present timeline, Juliette is forced to confront the horrific map of a revolution. She now knows and has been tipped off to Camille putting the vitamin D plus in the water supply. And with the vitamin D in the water supply, if anybody drinks the water, it starts to kick in immediately. So don't drink the water, drink something else. But Juliette also knows that the algorithm is at least thinking about activating the safeguard. So to stop this purge on Silo 18, Teddy pitches what I would like to say is a good but terrible idea. Let's blow the walls off Judicial and blow the pipe up as well. And all while doing that, let's find a way to, still pinch off the supply so it stops and, voila. Maybe 100, maybe 1,000 people die, but, it's a terrible idea. The weight of greenlighting this is brutal. Then enter Bernard, who brings Gloria along with him with a century-old diary of a porter named The Mission. So that diary goes on to reveal that 140 years ago in the last rebellion, that when they put the memory loss drugs in the water supply and people started to forget who they were, they reacted by killing themselves and committing suicide and jumping off the walls because they couldn't remember who they were, so they felt death was better, it seems like. But the lesson that Bernard is trying to teach here or show is that with the vitamin D plus now in the water supply, they're basically on borrowed time. And once people start drinking it and forgetting who they are, then there may be a mass panic. And in a mass panic, people may start to throw themselves over the walls again. And in that situation, they lost 2,000 people. The plan that they're proposing with the blowing up of Judicial may only kill 1,000 or less, but could also be more. Logistics. So Juliette's choice here isn't between peace and violence. It's deciding to whether blow Judicial up and risk a bunch of casualties. Would that be better than watching maybe 1,000 people, 2,000 people or more leap into the abyss? You let me know what you think is better. Tell me down in the comments. Meanwhile, on the surface where Lukas and Kennedy are running off to Silo 17, I think this kind of changes the geometry of the show a bit. So Juliette sends them out there off schedule ahead of time to throw off the algorithm's tracking. And I'm not sure if she really did a good job at that. But the moment they step into the pitch black of night and they see the beautiful sky and they start walking towards Silo 17 and they see all the dead bodies and the ruins that Juliette came across earlier in last season, we start hearing this buzzing sound. And I don't know about you guys, as soon as I heard, I'm like, I feel like I've heard the sound in the show before, and I couldn't really put my finger on it when. I feel like it was during that mission that Charlotte was on, but maybe not. You guys let me know if you remember where you heard this sound before. But we kept hearing the buzzing sound and the whizzing sound, and they say they heard gunshots, and I'm not really sure. I kept thinking that I saw something going by these people's faces, so let me know if you guys either heard gunshots or if you guys saw something going by Lucas's and Kennedy's helmets, because the only other thing that we know for a fact that we heard was the radio on Martha's end with pure static. Then we pivot to the before times timeline, and the narrative finally gives us the missing link that we've been waiting for. We know that Daniel and Helen were escorted to the airport, and we also see that Charlotte is here as well. After signing a bunch of NDAs and paperwork along those lines, they get on a luxury private chopper with Stenson, who is this billionaire that flies them over this massive field that he bought from a bunch of farmers. I think it was this 400 square mile patch of land. And Daniel looks out of the window because Helen's like, hey, what is that? And he sees this drill digging a hole into the earth. And you could tell by his tone, he knows exactly what this drill is. And it's been alluded to earlier in this season by whatever he used to help save New Orleans. Somehow Stenson has acquired his technology and is now drilling the original holes for the silos. So this confirms, even though we probably knew this already, that the silos were not built as this emergency shelter for when the world ends or after the world ended. They were being systematically hollowed out before anything ever happened by a bunch of secret billionaires. So let's dissect some of our key players this week. First, let's talk about Juliette Nichols. People might watch her decision and think about she sent Lukas and Kennedy out there into this wasteland, and they may even call it somewhat reckless. I don't think so. I think she's a little bit more calculated than that. I believe the reason that she takes this risk is because she realizes that the algorithm doesn't view humans as people. It views them or us as a variable in a containment equation. So while it may seem like a bad idea, I'm not sure how many choices she really had because she is under this immense pressure to, basically try to save everybody before the algorithm either wipes everyone's memory or just kills everybody with the safeguard. Both are bad options, and she's trying to find a way to divert both situations. Then we have this Cold War inside the Sims household. Robert Sims, we have learned and realized, is playing a much deeper and dangerous game than we ever thought he was to begin with. We see him in this episode warn Juliette about the tap water. Don't drink it. Drink anything but the water. You could drink milk, wine, juice, piss, doesn't matter. Don't drink the water. And then we also see him do a switcheroo job and get the judicial passes down to Sandy. And that's so the people in mechanical could smuggle the bombs up to, blow up Judicial later. Now, Camille, on the other hand, is operating off pure loyalist panic. She finally has her opportunity to corner Robert in seclusion down in Judicial, and she literally pulls a gun on Nurse Amy, and I've been wondering where she's been this entire time, so we finally see her again. And this is all to force Robert to confess. And it's crazy to me that the mask kind of slips here. Camille is really willing to commit murder, all just to keep the algorithm in her favor. But we also see Robert in this moment stop her from killing Nurse Amy and more than likely willing to cooperate with her because he doesn't want his son to grow up in a world where both of his parents are killers. And that is very touching. Now, how's that going to screw everybody else over? We'll see. But maybe he'll say some things, maybe he won't. Robert has been a few steps ahead this season as well, so maybe this is just another play. And that makes me want to look at the background clues because when you look closely at Walker's radio setup, we see that Martha establishes these strict code names for the comms over the radio. She is Dispatch, Juliette is Crane, Lukas is Deputy Turley, and Kennedy is Calso. And this isn't just some flavor to have fun names over the radio. This is to keep the algorithm from sniffing out who is talking over the radio if it were to ever intercept their comms. Now, let's go back and talk about that buzzing sound on the surface with Lukas and Kennedy. Because if you turn your volume up really, really loud and you listen, you can hear it kind of whizzing around. And then you have this mechanical hum and this whizzing noise kind of paired together. When you turn your volume up loud enough, make sure you're either by yourself or everybody's asleep when you do this. But if you turn your volume up loud enough, you can hear what sounds like gunshots. So this suggests to me that Silo 1 isn't just out here locking doors because the whizzing sounds, the mechanical hum, one of the first things that came to my mind is a drone. So does Silo 1 have drones flying up above, patrolling the silos just in case someone gets out. Because the algorithm even taunts Camille in this moment, or in a separate moment, confirming that there is even a backup to the safeguard. Because she said, you saw those bodies outside. Yeah, they didn't get caught by the safeguard, but there's a backup protocol to the safeguard, and that is to exterminate trespassers on the surface. Now, that brings a lot of questions to my mind, and maybe I'll have to do a separate video to break that down. But just briefly, if there is something out there that exterminates people on the outside when they escape the silos, why didn't it exterminate Juliette when she got too far away from her silo or even entered Silo 17 space? Why didn't anything happen then? Is it only active at night? Maybe it's not active during the day. Does something like the algorithm have to kind of tip it off? Because there are humans, by the way, monitoring everything. So it just brings a lot of different questions like that. But you guys let me know what you think about that down in the comments. Tell me your theories or your guesses on that. It just makes me ask a few more questions. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But now let's break down that final frame and talk about what it means for the trajectory of the series. So the tension really reached a boiling point when we saw Teddy and his crew planting the bombs all over Judicial, and they were on a countdown and getting ready to blow. Right when that moment happened, we hear the radio go off, and it's Kennedy's voice confirming that they made it to Silo 17, or at least Kennedy made it to Silo 17. So that single transmission right there caused a ripple effect. Now Juliette and Martha have to cancel the bombing of Judicial, and that was a very tense moment because that clock was counting down. And I didn't know it was going to happen. Even though I kind of thought that maybe they wouldn't blow, it got so close in that moment, I was just like, damn, I was grabbing the edge of my seat. It was really fun and really tense. But all of that aside, disaster averted, all the bombs are off. Silo 18 is still safe for the moment. But that also tells me that we know Kennedy made it because he used his code name. But where is Lukas? Because Martha told us, and she gave us the clue before they left, that she will only be talking to Lukas. They only have one, headset microphone thing. So in order for Kennedy to be able to, talk to them, he would have to have Lukas's helmet. So what happened to Lukas, and how did Kennedy get to Silo 17? And is he by himself outside of the kids? Because he said the kids are safe, and we know that he made it there with them. But where is Lukas? Big question there. Now, simultaneously in 2049, we see Stenson's helicopters approaching this big land development site. And then we see the camera pans down to show us this big sprawling site of a drill digging a hole into the ground. And Daniel and Helen finally witness the massive drilling machines that are tearing into the earth to construct the silos. The ending perfectly juxtaposes the destruction of the old world with a desperate fight to preserve the new one. These elite billionaires, a lot of them probably would think in an end of the world type situation, created an underground prison of sorts just to survive a self-inflicted apocalypse. And now we see centuries later, Juliette and her crew are finally starting to crack the foundation of what their grand experiment was. Now, thinking about everything that we saw on radio, we have to think about where we're going now in episode 8. We only have a few episodes left before we finish out this season. And with the next episode titled Gray Goo, everything is pointing to all of the narratives of 2049 slamming directly into the present timeline. I expect episode 8 to show us the truth of what happened to Lukas and Kennedy, and how maybe Kennedy only by himself made it to Silo 17. But I definitely kind of expected to show us what they encounter on the surface. Now, whether it's drones or nanobots, I don't know which one, but we're also going to see whether those kids are truly safe in Silo 17 or not. And then back in Silo 18, we already know Camille has crossed the line, and Robert Sims is going to have to make some type of final play here. The vitamin D plus is still going to be threatening everybody in the silo. So Juliette and Robert and everybody in the silo are running out of precious time before a lot of people start to forget things. So here's my final debatable question for you guys before we get out of here. When the dust settles, who is actually surviving this season? Does Robert Sims sacrifice himself to overthrow Camille? Or will Camille take down her husband, all just to appease the algorithm. Let me know your thoughts below. But if you enjoyed this breakdown, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. I really appreciate it. It truly helps the channel. Don't forget to follow the brand across all social media platforms, and I'm going to start posting daily updates or something close to daily updates. And I'm also on X and Threads making almost daily posts, so check me out there as well. If I forgot to tell you, please hype this video. I really appreciate that. Hypes really help the channel as well. And with all of that being said, stay safe in the down deep. I'll catch you in the next one.